Hey, this is Jim. Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. This is one of those episodes today where we turned on the video camera. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you already know that. But most people who enjoy this podcast listen to it on their favorite podcast listening app. And if that's you, you should know there's a link in the show notes today at silentjim.com where you can click on that link to YouTube and watch the video. The guest that I have today is our 20-year-old son, Trey. He's giving us an update. It's been a while since he was on the show. You've kind of seen him grow up around here if you've been in this community. We have 5 kids, of course. They're all totally awesome. So proud of all of them. And Trey is the second oldest, and he is pursuing multiple streams of income using the internet creatively. It's something he's grown up watching his dad do, and he caught the bug. He's jumped into it with both feet, and his business is simply incredible. Easily clearing multiple 5 figures per month in a very flexible schedule business. No school, college, I should say, no debt. He's got his own apartment about half an hour from us downtown Indianapolis. We live on the south side. He lives downtown, so we get to see him quite frequently. But I think you're going to enjoy just seeing a dad and son hang out, talk internet business, and a few things you should know before I set this episode up and get Trey on the line here. One is none of this is Amazon. None of his income is Amazon related. He really knows very little about selling on Amazon, but he does know the process of providing value to customers or clients, and as evidenced by their willingness to pay you for the product or service that you're providing and doing it profitably. That's what business is. So he's seen me use the internet creatively pretty much as far back as he can remember, because I've been doing this 20 years. That's how old he is. That's all he knows. And so he's got some great instincts, some great lessons for us today. The other thing you should know is, yes, he does have a course, but he's going to give us a special offer, he said, for listeners to this show, and especially for those who might jump into the mastermind group with Trey and I, and Brett and Mike Brown, and a handful of other people, our coaching director, Nathan, great people from this community. We're going to have a mastermind. So you're going to get a great deal on Trey's course. We may even give it away, probably give away most of it to people who join our mastermind together, because that's going to be launching soon. You can get details on the mastermind at provenmastermind.com. Sign up there. But I just wanted to let you know, while Trey talks about some of his course and content and things, hey, those special offers for this community are coming. But he's got a rocking business. He basically teaches others how to run an internet-based marketing agency, and he runs his own internet-based marketing agency where he basically helps his clients spend their money wisely to invest in ads and ad campaigns to generate revenue for their business. And he's got a very specific niche that he works with. You'll be hearing more about that today as well. But he's very successful financially. He's a very mature young man. He's making great life choices, and he's on a really good path. I find it very validating that some of the ideas that you might think are kind of crazy around here and the way that we've done our family and the way that we do life and business, well, it seems to be working out pretty well for our kids as they're starting to grow up and do life and do the things that they do. And this is just one of those times where I get to show off one of my kiddos, a proud dad showing off his kid. But in this case, there's plenty of great, valuable business lessons as well. So with that introduction, I'm going to click a couple buttons. We'll get Trey on the show. I hope you enjoy the time that we spend together today. I sure had fun doing this interview. Let's go jump to that recording. So Trey, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dad. It's cool to be here. It's always weird. I remember the last episode too, a while back. I was downstairs and you're upstairs, and I can kind of hear you through the floor. So
that's
yeah,
right.
It's kind of wild. Yeah,
I think so. This is your third time on this show, I think, right?
Is it the third or
second?
Really?
Because it seems like we did, I think it's the third, buddy, because I think we did one that way that you just described. But then after the house fire, we were crammed into a little house. We did one then,
That's right. We did one then too, didn't we? And we were in the same, we were sharing a mic.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's right. This is a third one. Okay.
This is the third. Yeah. That just occurred to us. Because when you described it, I'm like, no, we were in the same room. And then I thought, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But anyway, good having you.
Anyway.
Good having you here. And I think people are going to want to jump back and see It was episode 212, and I'll stick it in the show notes. The other episode, the first time you were on the show, episode 212 was August 2019. So we're a few months short here. It's of it being a year ago.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, and there's a lot that's happened since.
Yeah, it's been crazy. It's been an amazing ride. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a concept of compound growth, and I keep telling my peers and associates and people that I'm working with, what we're working on, we're really at the beginning base of an upward shot, and I think you said this in your Facebook post recently. And sorry, there's gonna be some sirens. I'm living downtown. There's nothing I can do about it.
Well, can you show us the place a little bit here in a minute? Not right
yeah, we'll do that in a sec too. Yeah, if
Cool.
You're watching on YouTube, go over to YouTube, you can see it. But what was I saying? Yeah, we're at the beginning of a huge spike up. My goal in 2020, I want to have $100,000 profit month, and it's not unreasonable that it happens at the rate that we're moving. Yeah, ambulances, whatever.
I'm not picking up on them. I don't hear it.
You're not picking up on them? Okay, cool. They're really loud for me. Whatever. And we're selling consulting services for businesses, marketing consulting. And then we have a program called the Six-Figure Marketing Consultant, where we help people start and grow their own marketing consulting businesses. And that could be Facebook ads, YouTube ads, coaching, whatever it is that you've got. A lot of stuff you could probably learn just by hanging around MST. Just take the lessons you're learning and go coach some business owners on how to maybe sell on Amazon, whatever it is. And so we've helped. We've got lots of students who make six figures online doing it. Got one who actually makes more than me now, which is really cool. It's really cool. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been up to that. Same kind of, I think it's generally the same thing I was doing last episode, just scaled up. We're spending more, making more, bigger team. Yeah.
Have you taken any like formal courses, like college courses, or
no college courses?
Talk to us about how you've educated yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I consider all profits, they either go to two things for me. They either go to like fun, like things that I just enjoy because I'm young, unmarried, don't have any kids. That's where it goes. But 80% of the time they go back into education. And really, I kind of consider it to kind of be a game. Like, how much money have I spent on education this year?
Right.
And I really think that's a fun game to play. The past year, 12 months, I have spent at this point, about 35 grand in just various things, including some of the stuff that MST offers. And it comes back around tenfold just about every time. So for me, education is, there's no such thing as formal education. There's only such thing as education, period. And, it doesn't matter where you get it from. It doesn't matter who you get it from. It doesn't matter. It just really matters who they are and are they, an authority in what you're wanting to learn. And the issue that I see with a lot of the public education systems is very few of the people who are teaching, do the thing themselves. And if they have done it, they did it 20 years ago when it was completely different, but they're still teaching it as if it was 20 years ago. So for me, you want to find people who are where you want to be and pay them money to, help you along. And that's the beautiful thing about the internet and the free market. We can connect with anybody who's really at any stage and kind of just say, hey, how much would you charge for me to learn this specific thing that you're doing? Even if they don't necessarily offer it, just ask. And that's what I've done as well. And it's always paid dividends. So yeah, no college education. You're very open about the sort of education that you provided, very much an unschool/homeschool environment, and so not much of a formal education under my belt of any kind, no GED, just really went straight into it from about 16, 17 years old, 20 now. And I've just, you remember when I was living at home, I was just locking myself away in my room, learning, testing, playing around. And things grow pretty quick when you're kind of in the zone like that.
Right. Yeah, it was a very organic process. I love what you're saying about how easy it is to seek out experts. Like that just was, I think our old education model is probably built on, you didn't have the ability to communicate as easily with people all over the world. So you found the local experts on whatever topic and everyone just sat under them and learned from them because that was your only option. And we're still kind of using that model of cramming everybody into a room.
Yeah.
When there's so much better content out there virtually.
Yeah.
Than pretty much any classroom you can find yourself
and really,
in.
Yeah, that's one of the big things that I really learned just kind of watching you growing up was you never and this is how I learned how to really, one of the areas I was thinking recently to what helped me learn how to learn this way, because you got to kind of learn how to learn, right? And I realized that one of the big things that I realized is I don't want to buy any educational material. I don't want to invest in anything unless they can show me they've done it or at least have people that have done it using what they've built. And I think that's one huge staple for MST. Like, there's very few people, and even some of my clients now are even people who are Amazon educators, and even some of them we've had to fire them because we just don't. There's not enough proof that they're actually doing it. And so yeah, it's very cool. I think we live in a time where you can kind of just peer behind the curtain on just about anybody. And if they're not generating success stories like you guys are, or like even what I'm doing with the programs that I sell, I mean, it's just like, just don't give them your time. If they don't have a list of people who are excited, just go to the next person.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Really.
think that's one of the next maybe waves of filtering who we decide to listen to. Is we haven't. I think this is drifting into philosophical a little bit, and we'll get into more specifics for the listeners. But
yeah, right.
I think we came out of an era that lasted past several hundred years, up until maybe the last 20 years or so, where your title was very meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you have a PhD in that topic. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
you went to college for 8 years on that topic. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you worked for that company. Therefore, you are an expert.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have the ability to basically say, okay, I see your impressive business card and the plaques hanging on your wall, but show me your content.
Where's the money at? Show me the
your
testimonials.
content. Show me the people that are talking about you in a positive way online. It's one thing to say I've helped 1,000 customers. Well, where are those people?
Mm-hmm. What are their names? What have they actually done?
Yeah, can I talk to one of them?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I feel like we've kind of, part of what we've done from my position in the industry is we've raised the standard for people who are paying attention, because we've said, hey, all of our customers and prospects go into one. You've said MST a few times. We don't use that acronym very often. It's basically our Facebook group. It's our big group, 56,000 people approximately.
Yeah.
All of our customers, our coaching students, any clients that we've helped, partners, they're all in one big group hanging out together, very transparent. And anytime someone says something positive, we'll tag it and say, hey, another success story. So you can scroll through and see that tag. So it's that social proof, that evidence. And then we no longer have to say, well, I went to college, or I've got a degree, or I've been studying. Like, hey, here's the proof. Let's just cut straight to the proof.
Right.
And that's how you can analyze who you want to work with, who you want to partner with. It's become so much easier now.
Yeah.
And you're taking full advantage of that.
Right. And I saw some comments too when you talked about how our podcast episode is coming up. You posted something today. You showed a screenshot. I had like a $5,500 day a couple days ago, and just a text I sent you, which is really cool. And you're just like, hey, we got a podcast episode coming up soon. With my son Trey. And one of the comments that I saw was really cool. He's like, the best proof is that it's generational. So I'm never gonna not massively credit the fact that what's being built works to the point where it just passes down family to family. And for me, that's like, I'm going to raise my family similar to how my dad raised me in terms of how we operated the business, the homeschool/unschool environment. Like, I'm just going to model it, So like, it's not just a business model. To me, there's a lot more here. It's really a counterculture thing. We live in a kind of a broken world right now. This to me is kind of like Rabbi Lapin, for those of you who are familiar, Dad obviously is, but for those of you who know him, talks about building that ark, building that boat for your family. Like, Noah's Ark isn't just a boat. It's it's an example. It's an example for how men are supposed to be to their family. And so really, that's, to me, when I made it about that to me honestly pushed me forward more than really anything else kind of did. Like, I just all right, it's time for me to start building my boat, and start really questioning the things that I'm being given, and making sure that, I'm building a place for my future family, my loved ones, my business partners, my people who I have influence over, that they can reside within. That's really what it's been about for a long time. And I think that's what's pushed me forward more than anything. And I would encourage people to think that way as well.
I love that. I love that lesson. It's so cool that you referenced it, because it takes a great deal of intentionality, and it's very counter to our culture to think of your business as having anything to do with Noah's Ark. But from a Hebrew perspective, as they read the Old Testament and they read that story of Noah building this boat and put his family in it and saving them from the flood, and basically saving the animals of the planet at the same time, the lesson behind the lesson is we should be building something that our families can be included in, especially when we're facing a time of moral or cultural decline.
Right.
You should be kind of circling the wagons, if you will, deciding very intentionally, who is it I want to surround myself with? Who are these people I want to build with? And that's why I value our community so greatly. Not that there's some kind of litmus test. It's like,
Right.
you got to believe just like us for this stuff to
Right.
work. No,
Right.
we
100%.
got all different worldviews in there, but you do have to subscribe to. I think if there's one common denominator, it'd be our definition of a good transaction,
Mm.
and that is, well, wait, what I'm curious what yours is. Before I tell the listeners my definition of a good transaction, I just had some business people at a meeting this morning ask me, because I emphasize that so often, a good transaction, a good transaction. So I want to see what, how many, I've probably said that to you at some point. What's your definition of a good transaction? Let's see how close it lines up.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a direct like quote that I remember you saying, but I can kind of just intuitively understand that, it's when two people or a group of people walk away all better off because of it. Like everybody's kind of a little bit better, a little bit higher in their own arenas because of the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that would be a good transaction.
Yeah, and business by design does that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But my definition of a really good transaction, you get a group of people who are not just transactions, but transactions that play well into the future. Meaning, 5 years from now, everybody involved in that transaction looks back on it and thinks to themselves, "Man, I'm so glad that happened."
Right.
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 That's a good transaction. Not just 5
Right.
minutes later.
Right.
Like, I don't know if I should have
It's
done
got to
that.
stand the test of time.
As measured by enhanced relationships.
Yep.
Are you closer to that person 5 minutes later, a day later, a month later, 5 years later? Now, it may not be someone you run into all the time, but you think back of it fondly, like, yeah, I would do that again. I probably would have paid more than I paid, or I would have given them more value than I gave them, depending on which side of the equation you're on, right? So if you can find yourself surrounded by a group of people who think that way, that's kind of the common denominator. We truly want to serve people well, but we want to build something special, build it profitable, something my family can be included in to the degree that they're interested. And this is very much a family thing for us. Thinking back at this point, we've probably had 8 or 9 people from our family involved in one way or another. So that has to be done intentionally. You don't just stumble into that. So I love that those lessons have kind of filtered into your thinking too. And will kind of help shape the direction that you take your future family.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's more than just, for me, it's just more than a business, like how you run your business, how you run your life. It's very much how you do anything is how you do everything thing. You got to be fully sold on it. You can't just be half pregnant on it. You have to go kind of all in. And so I think I had a huge advantage starting at 16, I think wealth can be defined as options. And when you're 16, you've got options, more options than most millionaires, like you can kind of do whatever you want to do. So, and I decided to take that option and put it here, and it's paid massive dividends. So, yeah.
That, from my perspective, having watched your path, it's like we basically gave you the equivalent of about a 10-year head start in about 3 or 4 years over a lot of your peers, simply by not weighing you down with some things you just didn't need, and strongly encouraging you to avoid debt, which you don't have.
Right.
And then encouraging you to pursue those things that resonated with you and monetize them. The way you know it's valuable is if you can monetize it. It's great to have hobbies. Those are great, but call them what they are. They're hobbies. They're leisure activities. The world doesn't owe you anything just because you like to play guitar, right? And we pounded that into you.
Right.
Like, you can get really, really good and maybe never make a dime with that. I mean, you have to be among 100%. The elite top 0.0001%. So 100%. Where's a need you can fill? That's where you go. And you play guitar in your spare time. And if it turns into something great, right?
Absolutely.
So we kind of processed it that way. Just because you want to be an NBA star, well, sorry, you're 5'9" white boy.
That's not going to happen for me.
It's probably not in the cards, dude.
Right.
So we're more realistic. It never did the whole, if you follow your dreams, you can be anything. It's like, no, you're never going to play point guard for the Bulls. But, it's just not realistic. Never mind the fact that you don't even like basketball.
I don't really play basketball much at all. Yeah.
A little bit.
But, a little bit.
I use a lot of basketball analogies, but
but
I want to hear about. I want to hear a couple things for the listeners here as we head into this. I want to hear some of your client stories, some of the people you've worked with. I want to see your apartment. Maybe that's a good segue. Like, just show us a little bit. Like,
let's do that.
I'd love to see it. I think you got a really cool place right downtown Indianapolis.
Yeah, sure. Let's do a little tour. So, where I'm working out of. So this is my desk right here. I work out of here. If you're watching, by the way, if you're watching on podcast, head over to YouTube. You'll see this. Yeah. This is my desk right here. I plug my Mac in and it just feeds to this monitor. And this is where I work from. It's great. Got this big open room in here. nice, big, spacious, lots of natural light, really helpful.
Make
Upstairs
a lot of
area,
videos right in this
make a
room.
lot of videos in this room.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of videos.
And
It's kind of like I tell my friends I'm renting an office with a bedroom attached to it. It's kind of what
right.
I tell my buddies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's upstairs area, no work allowed, just like very much a like a just hang out, chill out.
Your gaming area.
Gaming area, have friends over, watch
Yeah.
movies. Yeah, this is where I sleep. Very
You're only
much
about
just
half an hour from home, so you're able to come
yeah,
home frequently. And
yep. And got downtown down here, couple roads going by, you see some cars going by. Yeah.
more sirens than you're used to.
A lot more sirens. That was the hardest adjustment. Yeah.
That's cool. And the reason I like, a couple of reasons. I don't typically ask the guests of this show to like, hey, show us your house. But you are an anomaly. You're a 20-year-old who has no debt, who's got a nice apartment, who's making some good solid money, applying principles that he learned through homeschooling and self-study.
Yep.
And just so everyone's clear, it's not Amazon stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
you've opened a consulting agency and you teach other people how to open a consulting agency. And
Exactly.
we're actually in the process of hiring you to do some work for us because you've perfected some expertise in some of these
Mm-hmm.
arenas that we just don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So at the age of 20, you've got a very independent. So when I say, hey, show us your place, it's just it's a very strange bird. And for people who are just listening to this episode, I mean, you can jump over and watch the YouTube video. You can just use your imagination. It's a nice place downtown in the middle of the city. And as a 20-year-old, he's able to do this. How many people do you know? I'm talking to the listener that are able to pull that off at that age. It's a strange thing, but I would encourage. It's not that difficult to hack
It's really
this
not.
on to whatever it is you're already doing.
Yep.
I think is the part that's encouraging. It's not like, oh no, I can't go back and be 16 again and start my entrepreneurial journey like Trey did. So what's in
Yep.
it for me in this episode? No,
Yep.
you can tack these things on everything we teach around here. You can start an hour or two a week, 5 or 10 hours a week, slowly
And it will
build.
grow. It will grow really fast too. Like what I've observed, something I was told earlier on is like an hour when you're starting is worth way less than an hour 2 years in terms of the momentum, in terms of the money, literally just in terms of how much money you make that hour. So, it kind of begins to work outside of the amount of time you put in. It just kind of compounds and grows on its
Yeah.
own. So I was willing to, I honestly didn't make much like the first 2 years. I made a little bit, but nowhere near as much as I'm making now. And I learned a lot of lessons, put all the money back into self-education, figured it out,
It's the compounding effect of time. And
mhm.
I call it the period of intense focused effort is what I call it often too. It's like you got to walk 100 miles to earn your first $10. And
Yeah,
then your next step earns you 1,000. And then your next step earns you 10,000.
it's
That
100% what's happening.
that's the reality of the journey. And there's so many voices online that will tell you that they can reverse that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not, they're coming at you from they're trying to appeal to your emotional side.
Yep.
And that we call it the shiny object syndrome and
Yep.
that
Grass
next
is
big moment.
greener.
Yeah, exactly. So we battle against that. And having done this for 20 years and now seeing my son come up to the point where he's talking about these same principles, and it becomes less and less about the specific strategy that you're in. And it comes down to, are you willing to go through that period of intense focused effort
Yes.
to work 50 hours and learn something?
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
good news is that can be condensed down greatly for people who are driven. We got plenty of testimonials. You and our both sides of the business here, both sides of the window, that jump in and just go.
Yep.
30 days in, their life has changed.
100%. Yeah.
But that's people who, that's a special breed. I certainly wasn't that way. It took me a lot more time than that.
Yep.
But the nice thing
Yep.
about having a system is you've got someone who can hold your hand, and whether it be the proven Amazon course or content you've created or people who are actually in the mix doing it, it's important you pay attention to who you're listening to.
100%.
So this is
Yeah.
a very validating episode, I think,
Yeah.
because I just don't know a lot of guys in the industry. It's going to come across kind of like bragging, but if I was standing back just looking at the landscape, how many guys have been doing it for 20 years? They raised their kid in it. Their kid's now doing not the same thing. You don't work for us. We don't cut you a check.
Same principles, different industry.
Same principle, different industry. And
Yep.
you're learning enough there that you're going to come over and enhance what we're doing. And at some point, what we've built is going to start to really enhance. It already has to a degree because we've helped educate you. But
Mhm.
business connections are going to be connected.
Mhm.
it's just, you don't see that kind of thing very often. So I'm very
Yeah.
aware of how much of an anomaly this is in the industry.
Right.
I just want to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
And to people who
Yeah.
think,
I
oh, those
love it.
guys are just sitting there bragging about how good they did, and like, this is, a lot of this is because we're not afraid to admit at any given time, and we pounded this into you too. Whenever you're the smartest guy in the room, don't stay there very long. I mean, that's a scary place to be.
Right. That's a
So,
huge point. And even where I'm at right now at 20, like, right now, and just very open about my numbers, I do anywhere from about 30 to $40,000 a month right now. Right. And that's honestly a big reason why I've been able to move so quick, is because I'm around people where, like, 100 grand a month is like a hygiene standard, and you really want to kind of surround yourself with people like that. And there's people like that in the Facebook group, in MST. You want to track them down, connect with them, bring value to their lives. Like, that is the one key thing that has moved me forward more than anything, is surrounded by, and like, and I think that's what has also kept me from kind of having a lot of arrogance and ego as a 20-year-old dude, doing pretty well, is honestly when I begin to compare myself to some of the people around me, I'm a tiny player, is really what I feel like. Like, I'm small, and it's fun, and I don't beat myself up over that. Absolutely not. I'm very happy. But gosh, you just, there's so much further to go,
mhm.
and so I think that's a really important thing that anybody realizes at any stage, that, they're just kind of, what's that phrase? It's, if I ever looked further ahead, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants.
Mhm.
I really feel like I've just tracked down some great giants and been given some great giants, and I just kind of decided to stand on their shoulders. That's really
Mhm.
all that happened.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very well put. I think it's probably occurring to a lot of people, like, man, this is a mature 20-year-old, and you are, relative to a lot of other maybe 20-year-olds that people might know, and people in this age demographic. But I got to tell you, there's something really valuable about just having a family that's present under the same roof, and just spending time. There's no magic formula. Like, if someone came to us and said, okay, write the curriculum, what is it that you did? And we've had people ask us things like, what did you do? And like, my approach to education, now your mom was a little different, right? I mean, she was like,
Mhm.
you got to do at least some of this book and some of that book and some of this. And,
Mhm.
and mine was more like, I want you reading some of the classics, spend some time reading, spend some time
Mhm.
writing, and spend some
Mhm.
time pursuing ways that you can creatively serve others.
The library right there, still got a bunch of
And
books.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you're a reader. And if we can instill a love of learning, it's lighting a fire, it's not filling a pail. It's kind of our
Yep.
theme for
Yep.
education.
Yep.
And
Yep.
your mom has that as her motto, I think, on her Facebook page. That's what
Yeah.
education is: lighting a fire, not filling a pail.
I love
So
that.
you'd
Yeah.
probably be a very bad candidate to go on Jeopardy and try to win a
Oh,
trip.
I would stink. I get made fun of all the time for how little I know about what's going on in the world. I didn't know about Corona until like a week ago. I didn't know about,
Right.
like, I'm in my own little world over here. Like,
Yeah.
people. My girlfriend, she was talking about this thing that happens. This big, like, cultural thing. It's this thing that happens in, like, San Diego or something, and like everybody knows about it. It's like the Flying Colors celebration, or something like that. She's like, you don't know what that is? I'm like, no, absolutely not. I have my own little focused vision, and anything outside of that is just noise for me. Like,
Mhm.
if it's not directly related to how I grow my business and how I make more money, honestly, I'm really stupid. So
There's
it's
there's
like
Hebrew principles behind all this. That's the law of specialization. Not that we're not to be well
100%.
rounded, but
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
if
And I think there's some wisdom. Like, I have a lot of respect now for people who specialize, because I see now that one of the worst things I can do to self-educate, quote unquote, is go down a bunch of rabbit holes online, like rabbit trails, and just see, like, oh, I'm just going to learn about, the human eye for 4 hours. Like, that's not self-education. It's self-education always starts with the consumer. It always starts with who needs what, and then you kind of figure out, all right, how can I be the person who gives them that what, and then you start there, and that's, to me, that's market value self-education.
Mhm.
So, I don't know much about any other topics. I'm pretty good at math, but, like, that's about it, and then everything else is kind of just doesn't add to my bottom line revenue. So it doesn't need to be in my focus.
Yeah. So how
Uh,
how would you respond to the culturally popular phrase, find something you're passionate about, you'll never work a day in your life? Or pursue your passion?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it happens a lot, and it's a very common phrase. So, and I think my response would always be, um, like, you can develop passion. Like, that's the thing. People don't realize that passion is a choice. If you're serving people and you're serving them well and you're seeing the results of what you're doing, like, it's going to be really hard not to be passionate, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's kind of a choice. You can kind of take your passion with you. What's that quote? Who's that dirty jobs guy?
Mike
That you
Rowe.
always, Mike Rowe. Yeah. You and I used to talk about Mike Rowe a lot.
Yeah.
Like, he's a cool guy. And he's got that
He's
quote.
had some Hebrew training at some point.
At some point he's had something like that. Yeah. And he's got that quote. He's like, don't follow your passion, take it with you. That's a big thing for me. Cause, I think too, growing up, and I think you saw this, when I was like 13, 14, 15, I was kind of like artsy fartsy, did a bunch of little things here and there, very like expressive, whatever that meant. And then I kind of caught on and realized, like, oh wait, like, I'm following what the world defines as passion, but really there's no real wisdom in that. There's no real like actual, like, passion is just, it's kind of a, like, I hate to get this controversial. It's kind of hedonistic. It's kind of like, just do what I want because I want to do it. Or hedonistic is, I think that's the right word.
Yeah.
But
Do what feels
either
good.
way,
Yeah.
do what feels good, right? And so for me, it's kind of like, okay, let me take this energy I'm pouring into my, like, quote, passion, and pour that energy into who's got a problem that I can help solve, and how do I kind of begin to figure out what steps would be necessary to help them solve that problem. And for me, marketing was the immediate thing that came to mind, because I had grown two businesses at that point. My wedding photography business, which I grew using social media, and had another small thing on the side, which actually helped wedding photographers with editing their photos, right? Both of which grew through social media. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to take that and see if anybody else needs like social media marketing consulting, and then immediately just boom, hit a gold mine and went down that rabbit trail. And here we are today. We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on Facebook ads, YouTube ads, and it's crazy. You just kind of find a niche and just go down it. And I've found myself far more passionate about what I do now than I would be, anything that I kind of choose, like, collecting pins or whatever. That's not, there's no real value there.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the bigger favors that we do. And it's not a hard lesson to teach a young person. It resonates very quickly when they hear it. Now, if you don't hear it until you're in your 40s or 50s, it's some cognitive dissonance, right? Like, wait, it doesn't register. For someone to come up and say, no one cares what you're passionate about.
Yeah, that's hard to hear for sure if you thought that way for so long.
There's things I'm passionate about, but I figured out pretty quickly no one else really, they'll politely ask like about my great run that I had yesterday, but they don't really care. And like, it's kind of annoying almost, like, oh, guess what I did for fun? Like, no one really truly cares. Some of your best friends care for a few seconds at a time. What you're passionate about, but if you start talking about creating a long line of people who are grateful for what you're doing, like truly in their inner being, they're like, I'm in a better place now than I would have been otherwise. Thank you. I don't care if it's drag cleaning, walking dogs, I don't care what it is, but there's a need and you fill it. There's nothing more satisfying. I'll take that any day over, I'm passionate about this activity.
Yeah. No, right.
You get plenty. And the nice thing is, just to put a nice little seal maybe on that conversation and move on, but the nice thing is, whatever those passions are, I mean, you still get to play guitar whenever you want. You could create art and be
absolutely.
artsy.
I have more free time than any 20-year-old that I know, actually, like, especially if they're in college. Like, I can take a week off. I still make money. So it's like, it's just a matter of, I know that week off means, 3 years from now, I'm making slightly less money. So I do pace myself pretty well. But if I really wanted to, it's no big deal. I just cancel some calls, move some stuff around, boom, freedom. So for me, I really don't, I don't get that either. I think, if I wanted to get really spanking good at guitar, because I played guitar for a long time growing up. I've still played guitar since I was like 10. I had the thought recently, I'm like, I'm good. I really enjoy guitar. I'm really good at guitar. I really like it a lot. And if I was like, if I wanted to get like really good, I could probably do that better now that I've built this thing, than I could on the other side of that. So if you really do like something, like, the best thing you can do for yourself to pursue that passion is to first build the freedom, build a business that makes you just enough money that you can kind of have that ease of mind, and then do it on the side. And Yeah. So
It's that
just a thought.
strange concept of delayed gratification that so
Right.
few people understand in our culture.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Serve others well. You'll have more money, more time, more freedom. You can pursue your passions. You can be that great person you've always wanted to be, which requires money in almost all cases. People are like, oh, I just want to really help people. You know, if someone has a need, I want to be able to meet
Yes.
that need. That requires time and money. And if you don't
Right.
have either,
Yes.
you can't really be that person. It's really
Right.
tricky. Really, really
Right.
tricky.
Right.
Man, good stuff. Well, tell us some stories of some of your clients, you know, without giving away
Yeah.
anything
Sure.
specific, but like talk us through, like,
Sure.
what do
Yeah.
you do? How have you helped some folks?
Yeah. So I'll start with the education side. So I kind of, you're gonna hear me talk about sides or like branches. Marketing agency is the actual agency that I run. We have clients that we spend advertising money on to create returns for them. Okay, that's how far I've gotten down this marketing rabbit trail. Is I'm actually proficient with paid ads like Facebook ads, YouTube ads online. I'll start with the education side where I help people start and grow their own marketing businesses, their own marketing consultancies or agencies, whatever you want to call it. So we've got one student. This is sort of our top student right now. His name's Bass. And I actually interviewed him on my YouTube channel. If anybody's interested in checking that out, hour long, we talk about how he grew his business from scratch, from zero, in about a year's time, actually less than that, to rivaling my numbers. He's about $40,000 to $50,000 a month in profit, and that's just helping people with their business, marketing consulting, which is just an incredible case study. And when I say zero, I mean true zero. His only previous experience was a sales job, which did definitely give him like some leverage because sales is an element here, but not much because most sales jobs don't train you very well. And he wasn't very well trained at all. So I had to fix a lot of the things that he was struggling with. So that's just one. We've got a few like it. I've got a buddy, Keaton Walker. He's really, now he's a buddy. He's a business partner, friend, valued friend. He's been at my apartment. I interviewed him as well on YouTube. He's coming up on $20,000 a month in profit, I believe, with his
Where's he
marketing
from?
agency. He's from Utah. Yeah,
And so
Utah.
we're here in Indiana.
Flew out
You
to
and you got
Indy,
clients all over the world. You've flown and seen them different parts of the world.
seen them, spent New Year's with Bass, who I just mentioned. Yeah, I mean, I've been all over.
Where was that? UK?
Yeah. Uh, UK. Yeah, I think so. United Kingdom, Amsterdam, or no,
Yeah.
Amsterdam's just
Oh,
Europe in general.
yeah, Amsterdam.
Yeah.
That's where you went to
Mhm.
see him.
Mhm. Yeah. And then yeah, so with the education side, we've got a lot of people lining up with results, and that's a lot of fun. Really, just copy and pasting what I'm doing at the actual agency itself, which is what I'll talk about now. Some of our clients there, we're running ads right now for one guy. We're spending about $1,000 a day, making him back about 2.2. What we're doing is we're filling his calendar with sales calls for him to sell his online course. I've niched down so far that now I'm not just doing marketing for any business. Eventually you want to find a niche, find a specific kind of person that you can help, that you've got a system to help. And I found myself
Specialization.
specialization. And I really
It's
found
fractal, by the way.
fractal. Yeah.
You
I've heard you talk
tracking me
about
with
this.
that? Specialization. The 80-20 rule applies. Just
Hmm.
when you think you've specialized, you need to carve out 80% of
Hmm.
your wasted time and focus on that
Hmm.
20% of your most effective and specialize again. And then
Exactly.
once you got that nailed down, you do it again. You keep niching down.
Yeah.
And then 2 or 3 times in, and you're the world's foremost expert.
Hmm. Truly. Yeah. It's such a great idea. If you're really, truly, every jump I've made in revenue has been exactly that. It's been, what am I doing that's kind of waste? What's the 20% that's actually working, and how do I get rid of the 80% without taking a big risk? You know? So yeah, I really think that's a really valuable lesson. But with the marketing agency side, grand today, making them back about 2.2. All we do is we run Facebook ads that appeal to his audience. He's selling an online course. I won't really go into the niche specific. I'm going to just share that it's an online course, costs about $2,000, and we generate sales calls for him. And he just hops on. His whole business now, his whole life is just, he has a handful of sales calls a day, gets on, sells his course, moves on with his day. 9 a.m. to about 2 p.m. That's what he does, and we've got his life rocking. He makes a lot of money. We're making about $50,000 this month. And we do that, pretty copy paste with a lot of different people. Anybody who's got like a course or like consulting service or coaching service, that's sort of who we work with. And that's what I'm doing over there. The company's name is Koa Media. So we've got one guy running ads, myself, I like writing copy and building the funnels, and that's about it. Yeah.
Well,
So
let me
that's
start connecting
that's the
some
agency side.
dots for some folks who are listening. We've got our mastermind launching soon. So people that are thinking to themselves, man, I wouldn't mind hanging out in a room with guys that think this way. And we've got Brett on my team, who's the most successful Amazon seller that I've ever met. And he's my
Mm.
business partner. I mean, we're having a multi-million-dollar week.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Dad's
Mind
texts to
blowing.
me right now are insane. Yeah, I
Mind
love seeing it.
blowing. Yeah. And number one best-selling toy. And then another guy that's going to be in the mastermind with us. Did I tell you that Mike Brown's going to be jumping in quite a bit with us on the mastermind?
I did hear that. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Yeah.
If you don't know who that is, Entrepreneur of the Year for the state of New York, Death Wish Coffee, which is in every Walmart. It's the top selling coffee brand. Any given day, it's top 1, 2, or 3 coffee on Amazon, and it's in around the world now. And this guy was living in his mom's garage behind her house just a few years ago, jumped into our community. He was in the first mastermind that I ever did. And I'm far from attempting to take credit for this guy's marketing brilliance. But he does credit this community and the stuff that he's learned around here for helping propel him to that level. And then plus
Mm.
just a whole bunch of really great people at all different levels of business. You may be thinking, oh, I'm not doing those kind of numbers. Well, the only thing between where you are now and adding some commas and zeros is, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, Trey, spending time with the right people and putting the right thoughts in your head. I think it's a
Yep.
Jim Rohn quote. You know
Yep.
the difference between who you are now and who you're going to be. I've heard it used a few different places, but
Mm-hmm.
what are you putting in your head? What are you reading? And who are you hanging out with?
Yep.
Those are both in your control. So a great solution to both of those is to jump into the mastermind, provenmastermind.com. We don't have as I'm recording this, we don't have all the details quite yet. There's no price tag even for it, but you can certainly go sign up, say, hey, I'm interested. And we're just kind of seeing who it attracts. We're going to see what you guys want to do with it. Probably limit the number somehow, and we're going to create something where we can hang out a few times a month, get together live couple times a year,
Yeah.
and do
And if
business
I could
and
even
life
just,
together.
if I could just even say from my end, even just one of those guys, Mike Brown, Brett, my dad, and what he's been able to build, even just one of them, it'd be an amazing, mastermind. But, throw us all into a sort of a group. It's going to be a pretty cool environment. I'm looking forward to it personally. I think we'll make some really good friends, and
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna
I'm looking
challenge
forward
us
to
all
it.
forward. It's pretty
Yeah,
incredible when you get paid to hang out with people who sharpen you.
for
Uh,
sure.
but it
Yeah,
starts being willing to invest in good relationships, and
absolutely.
one of the best ways to spend money is
Yeah.
to
And
be
even
in
like I
front of and
said, I
get
spent
around.
probably 35 grand the past 12 months, and
Hmm.
a few of that went into masterminds. Actually, a lot of that went into masterminds. Yeah, it's a huge deal for me. Yeah.
Just the value of those connections and
Yeah.
who it is that you're spending time with. I mean, I remember pounding it into your guys' heads as young men. And we'd have the guys' Bible study over at our house, and the few times I
Hmm.
talked to those guys. So I think one of the most valuable things that I could say to you was, I don't need to meet you in person or talk to you or see a picture of you or read a bio on you to know exactly who you are.
Yep.
And I would share things like, all I have to know is show me the 5 people you hang out with the most.
Yep.
I'll know who you
That's
are.
right.
Show me
That's right.
the list of books you've read in the last 8 months.
That's right.
I know who you are,
Yeah.
right? Show me how you spend your money. I know who you
Yeah.
are, right?
Right.
So I don't need to meet you. It's not
Right.
about getting to know you. It's like, where are your habits? What are your habits? What do you value? How do you spend your time? Who are you hanging out with? What
Right.
are you filling your
Well, and
head with?
that's, I'm telling you, like, even being a 20-year-old guy in this, like, cultural point, the normal thing is just the complete opposite end of the bell curve from where I'm at. It's partying, it's girls, it's whatever. It's, and even some of my friends, as I started to see some success, I kind of began to see the real character. So like, oh, now that you got some money, why don't we kind of spend that, over here? And this, I'm like, it's crazy. I had to cut some people out. So truly, it's not just finding good people. It's also getting rid of the ones that are not really doing for you what you need. And you can do that in love, say,
Mhm.
hey, I really love you. I want you in my life. So I'm going to let you kind of earn that place in my life. And I've had to do
Yeah.
that for a few people. Some of them take it personally. Others rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
That's been a
Yeah.
really huge thing for me. Honestly, that was the smartest decision I made about probably a year and a half ago, was to really vet my circle, and honestly, that's within 2-3 months of me doing that, I had my first $10,000 month. There's really that's not by chance at all. Not by chance at all.
That's right. Yeah, I think we have enough evidence that this isn't some kind of random anomaly, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of intentionality behind this, and it's a
Mhm.
lot of timeless biblical wisdom. Is really all it is. I mean, you can call it
Mhm.
common sense if you prefer.
Mhm.
That's perfectly fine. But we spend very lot of time diving into biblical principles and saying, okay, how does this apply to our life and business? What's
Mhm.
the lesson here? How does this? How do we do things differently? And we've been very influenced in that direction, and you've
Mhm.
certainly benefited. I know.
Mhm.
I look back at where I was at your age, and I was uh, very stressed with multiple classes that felt irrelevant, going into debt. Not a lot of debt because I was working my tail off at very
Mhm.
menial jobs. I'm thinking,
Mhm.
wow, it's awesome to think that we've given you basically a 10-year head start, you know.
Yeah,
And I'm very
that's pretty
blessed.
awesome.
I'm very grateful for where I am and those years and the lessons I learned in leadership. I'm not saying it was all a waste of time by any means, but
Yeah.
I could have crammed it all in a lot faster, I think, and with a lot less
Yeah,
debt, a lot less money spent. Could have launched my
for
business a
sure.
lot sooner.
Yeah.
It's just good to
Yeah.
see you on that trajectory for sure.
It's
And
cool. I
we've
love
got
it.
a very entrepreneurially minded family.
We do.
We're out there on the edge of the bell curve, but we're proving that it works.
Mhm.
Um, well, this is cool. So, what was there any here's one other observation I want to make too, just to kind of tie up some loose ends. People who listen to a lot of episodes of this podcast, you've heard us talk about the three business models that we've taught. It's been 17 years for me that I've kind of thought about the internet as representing three different business models. That's what the Silent Sales Machine book is. If you go to
Mhm.
silentjim.com, you'll see Silent Sales Machine. Any given time, it's one of the top 10 internet-based entrepreneur books on Amazon. That it talks about those three models. But if you pay attention to Trey's story today, he kind of talked about all three. And he went down the consulting side. There's a
Mhm.
C, an E, and an S. We used to call our conference the CES conference. A lot of people still do in our community. Those are the three business models you've heard me talk about so many times. The C is consult. Trey went full speed down as soon as he earned the right to do so because he was able to sell product or service,
Mhm.
proving he's knowledgeable enough to be able to pull it off. Other people said, hey, could I hire you to do that for me?
Right.
Specialize. And now, boom, there you are
Right.
with a
And
beautiful
yeah, it's
business.
crazy. I just recently accepted. I was just kind of doing some reminiscing recently. I got a check for 5 grand for, I think it was like 10 phone calls, and I was like, that's pretty sweet. That was pretty
Mhm.
cool. It's for another business owner who's just wanting to model some of the stuff we're doing for our clients. I'm like, all right, I'll take it. And that's just profit. That's just raw. No, didn't spend any money on ads for that. It was a reputation driven thing. So it's like, yeah, you specialize, you specialize, you specialize. You pick one model. You remove that 80% noise. Focus on that 20% needle moving activities in your business, the things that actually move the needle forward. Specialize in your market. You'll get there a lot sooner than you thought you would. Honestly, I wasn't at 16 thinking by 20 I want to make this much. It was just I was doing that day, that month, that week what I had to do, and the compound effect just kind of works for you when you're thinking that way. So I'm definitely further ahead than I thought I'd make, but it doesn't surprise me when you look at how it works you know so I'm just excited for 30, 40, 50. Like that's what excites me. I'm excited to be my dad's age, see where things have taken me. That's what I'm really pumped for. Right now it just kind of feels like I'm just dipping my toe in the water, to be honest with you. I think it's more to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're on an exciting trajectory. And most of the listeners to this show aren't in your age demographic, although I imagine some of them might share it. Typically
Right.
our show listeners are older than you.
Right.
But I would say they need to be challenged by the way you think and adapt their thinking. Possibly if they found any of the ways that you're thinking and they think, oh, I don't know if I agree with that. Why don't you agree with it? What
Hmm.
evidence do you have that there's something off there or something wrong there? Or really challenge yourself, because I think what you've been raised under, if I had to put it in the simplest possible terms, is we have an aversion in our house, and we surround ourselves with people who have an aversion to a poverty mentality versus an abundance mentality. Because I
Absolutely.
had to kind of come after my college experience, I had some great professors, made some great friends, had some good mentors, but I also got my head filled with a lot of garbage that was just pure, unadulterated poverty mentality.
Yep. Yep.
Garbage. So as I became to realize, I'm glad I realized it in time before we started raising kids was, man, I've got to prevent that from being in their mindset. I've got to make sure
Mm,
that they see the world as abundant, that they celebrate the success of others, that they don't blame
absolutely.
others for decisions that they made themselves. They don't think the world
Absolutely.
owes them something
Hmm.
because, hey, I went to school and educated myself. Everybody else should pay for that. Like,
Yeah.
furthest thought from your mind, because
Right.
it was always an abundance mentality. If I'm supposed to do something, the resources will be there. If I'm going to
Yeah.
pursue something, I've got to figure it out, very independent minded.
Right. Absolutely. And it was hard. I think I got a lot of, even just me, growing up in a really, otherwise a really good social circle. They're all really good people, but this one area, for some reason, money, business, the market, it's even broken in otherwise people's minds of people who would be of good character. So I had some really good character friends, but they just didn't see this right. And these are the friends who challenged me very lovingly, said, "Hey, we love that you're wanting to get into business. We love, but really consider college." And
You're going to need an
now
MBA.
you're going to need an MBA, and it's people that I really love and care about, and to this day I still do. But you know, the numbers show they're in debt. I'm not.
Hmm.
I'm making significantly more than any job that their degree is going to help them get, from my eyes. And even my next door neighbor, I only I've brought this up yet. My next door neighbor is the marketing professor at the college that I was told by a lot of my friends I was supposed to go to, and I pay the same rent he does, and so and we're good friends now. So really, if you just kind of follow these principles, life just kind of takes you forward. It's really, you don't have to
Hmm.
take a degree. You don't have to have somebody tell you you can do it. The only person who's telling you you can or can't is who is buying. That's who you should listen to in regards to whether you can or can't. Who's got the money, who's ready to pay you. That's the only person you listen to, nobody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it all comes back to serving instead of
Yep, it
pursuing your
does.
passion. Or as you mentioned, I think it was the last podcast episode you were on, where we talked about just in time versus just in case
Yeah.
learning in
Right.
education.
Yes.
Our whole system is set up for just in case you need to dissect an
Hmm.
isosceles triangle someday. Let's talk about it for
Hmm.
the next 3 weeks.
Right.
And here you are, 60, and you're thinking to yourself, I haven't had to do that one time. Right.
Right.
Whereas
Right. Yeah.
if you actually did have a job that required you to dissect an isosceles triangle, you could Google how to dissect an
Hmm.
isosceles triangle, and an
Or
hour and a half
consult
later,
somebody who's done it successfully or whatever.
or
Yeah.
hire somebody for $4 an hour that does that all day, every day. Right. So
Right.
we taught you how to think differently about what it means to navigate getting stuff done.
Hmm.
So I think a
Hmm.
lot of valuable lessons, and
Hmm.
I've been kind of crammed into this hour. But what else would you share? I want to hear a little bit more about your thoughts on the mastermind, what you're hoping, who you think it might appeal to. I know that's kind of
Yeah.
putting you on the spot, but
No,
who
not
could
at
be
all. I mean,
considering it?
I mean, here's the thing. I don't think you need to be at a certain point in your business, whether it's revenue wise or in your life. I think it's going to be a pretty open door thing. Like, if you're liking the story that you're hearing from myself, if you like Mike Brown's story, if you like Brett, what my dad are doing, like, really, you just don't consider what you're getting. Consider whether you appreciate the people and the principles they run their business by or not. If you do, very seriously consider it. Um, yeah, I don't know if there's a specific type of person in terms of revenue in their business. I think it's kind of hard to pin. It's specifically, do you or do you not appreciate the principles that, we seem to discuss fairly often? If you do, pull the trigger, because it's the next step. That's kind of the guiding signal. If you like the principles, pull the trigger. Um, yeah, I would say that's about it, because really for me, it hasn't been, there's no technical that you can learn. There's no, how to rank your PPC ads on it, or, that all helps. But at the end of the day, it's principles. It's who are you serving? How are you serving them? What are you selling? How are you selling it? It's just very core things. And, I think it's gonna be a very principle driven conversation. And if you're somebody who's maybe sort of, I hate to use the word like awake enough or aware enough, but if you're aware enough to see that really, truly, to move you forward in business, it's not a matter of what's the next button you click. It's a matter of how do I think and what's going on in my head. And I want that what's going on in my head to align with what I want in my life and my business consecutively, then I think this will be valuable for you. So yeah, that's who I'd say should seriously consider or just pull the trigger right out the gate.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Provenmastermind.com is the website. And for those of you who jump into that, we should mention the course that you've created, the one that you're using to help your students succeed.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have an awesome deal for you guys in there.
Yes, I'm excited about that.
And for anyone else too. We'll do a promotion of that soon enough.
Yes.
If someone wants to jump out, for anyone who's listening to this podcast, he's going to give me the friend of dad discount here. We'll get something rocking for you guys. We'll stick links in the show notes to all this too. Okay. So you can check it all out. But yeah, just super proud of you, buddy. I think this was very good. I think you need to get your own podcast going too. I've been pushing you on that for a while.
Yeah, you have. I honestly would love to pull the trigger. I've had more people than you at this point tell me I need to, because most of my content so far is like short video blocks. Mm-hmm. When you talk for an extended period of time, you can get more out. There's more. It's listening and seeing are very different. We've talked about that too. So yeah, I definitely want to do that. Sure.
Yeah. The eyes are easily deceived. The ears, not so much. So you get in that podcast. It's a very relational, very trust building, and people will figure out way quicker if it resonates with you. That's actually a good tip for those who aren't familiar with that. If you're used to watching content and you think it's beneficial to you, but you're trying to parse through, is it or isn't it? I'm not sure. Close your eyes and listen to the same content. Listen to that same speaker with your eyes closed, or just listen to the audio version only. Your ability to process what it is that you're getting is so much better if it's just ears as opposed to the visual. It's almost a lazy process. Visual is a very lazy, and it takes a lot of brain work, and you get a lot less information from the visual.
Right. And I think screens opened up a lot of doors for people with, secret ill intents to kind of get you to do what they want you to do. Like, I really do think that's the case. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. You get the flashy, that's why in the industry that I'm in, trying to sell a course, teaching people how to use the internet creatively to make money. There's so many con artists and scams, and they're using all the traditional images that you would expect and trying to make you jealous of the guy that's got more than you, and showing you boats and yachts and girls and cars. And we've never done any of that, which gives us a big disadvantage on the front end.
Huge advantage on the back end.
On the back end, it's such an advantage because
long-term play.
Yeah, if you aim your marketing at idiots, you're going to stand up on stage one day at your event and look out on the audience and see
all idiots.
A bunch of fools, man. How'd these people end up here? These people are fools. Well, that's how you marketed. Yeah, that's how you marketed too. But you go to our events and it's just people you just can't get enough of, and you want to hang out with and spend time with and grow with and learn together.
Yeah.
So that's the long-term play that we've been on. But hey, it's good hanging out with you, buddy.
Yeah. Good seeing you.
What's the plans tonight?
Well, this is the last thing I got on my calendar. I'm pretty flexible. I think tonight, my girlfriend's coming over. She's bringing some ingredients. We're going to cook dinner. And after that, I think I'm heading to bed. I mean, that's about it. Yeah. Well, hey, it's not, I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, don't forget to call your mom.
Call my mom. That's right. I'll call my mom. Yeah. Call my mom. Well, yeah, it's the thing is it's a lot less flashy. It's just waking up, putting in work, and you learn to love it. It's when you really learn to love the details of it, it's just, you don't need flash. You just kind of do it. Yeah.
Well, we're very proud of you, and we're on a good path, and we'll stick links to everything we talked about today in the show notes for anyone who's interested. And of course, you can email us support@silentsalesmachine.com if you have any questions about any of this. We'd love to help you out. Trey's in the Facebook group all the time. He'll be at the Proven Conference in July, theprovenconference.com.
I'm there.
Did a great job speaking last year as well. So come learn more about what he's got going on and asking questions. And you'll be seeing a lot more of them around here, I'm sure. Right. Good job, buddy.
Thanks, Dad. Love you.
Love you too, bud. Talk to you later.